Where would you like to travel this year if time and money weren't a factor? And I'll throw in the pandemic too. What are some of those dream wish list travel destinations that you have on your list that you'd really like to take in 2022 if it was possible? Hello everyone, my name is Heather, and one of my goals on this channel is to help you to realize that you can travel to those places that you have on your list. And I really believe that it's so important in a lot of situations to just go. That if it's important to you, that you have to just make it happen. Otherwise, I think so many people end up saying, someday I'm going to go do that, or someday I'm going to go there. And someday ends up being never. And I think that's really a shame. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about my personal 2022 travel wish list and where I would like to go and when, if money was no object. Now, here's the thing with me. I have plenty of time. And for a long time now, probably at least over 20 years, I've basically set my own schedule. How have I done this? Well, after my many years in college, because I went to university for a long time, and then I was a full-time high school teacher for a little while. And then I had a full-time job in a hospital for a little while. And then when my daughter, Megan, who is featured in a lot of my videos, was born, I ended up quitting my job to be a stay-at-home mom. And a lot of that had to do with the cost of childcare for 2 kids was more than what I made in my job. So it didn't make any sense really for me to continue going to work because and then something would have gone into childcare for our 2 kids. So I was a stay-at-home mom for a number of years. And then my husband and I separated and then got divorced. And then for 13 years, I was a substitute teacher for the school district. And the way that worked was you basically went online and picked your jobs. You chose or picked up jobs yourself. Once in a while, they might call me and ask me to take a job, but we had the option to not take calls if you didn't want to, and only go online and pick the jobs yourself. So I really could kind of cherry pick my schedule for the entire time that I was doing that job. And since the pandemic started, I have not worked at all. My job basically now is YouTube. My job is making informative, entertaining, interesting, and educational travel videos for my viewers to help you to travel well, even if you're on a modest budget. And so I'm working from home. I've been home with my kids. My kids have been doing school from home for the past 2 years. And so time is not an issue for me. My issue is always money. And I'm sure that's the case for a lot of you. If money wasn't a factor, if I had more money, I would very quickly and easily book every single one of these trips on this list. I know this sounds strange, but there's a few things that could happen that could allow me to take one or more of these trips this year. So I don't think that it's a good idea for anyone to ever just say, well, that's not going to happen. There's no way. We won't be able to do that. We can't afford it. Try not to have that negative mindset or that type of thinking when it comes to travel. You never know. Your circumstances can change very quickly. And I hate to see people just completely put it out of their minds about some of the travels that they want to do because they think it's impossible. Here's my travel wish list for 2022. And I was just sharing this with my daughter the other day. And after I said it to her, I realized I should make a video about this. And I'd be interested to hear what's on your travel wish list for 2022. And if any of the things I mention are places that you would like to visit too. First of all, we're taking a trip here very soon. And there's going to be more videos coming up announcing that trip and giving you all of the details and everything like that. So be sure that you're subscribed to my channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any notification whenever I put out a new video. So there's going to be lots of content coming very soon about the trip that we're taking here in January. Okay, the next time that I would like to travel in the year is March, and there's 2 possibilities for March. Ben's birthday, my youngest son's birthday, is in March. It would be nice if we could take a trip for his birthday because he likes to travel a lot just like I do and his older brother does. Of the 4 of us in our family, me and my 3 kids, Megan is probably the most reluctant traveler. She enjoys the things that we do very much, but she's also very much a homebody. So it's it's kind of a push and pull for her some of the time. But Ben really likes to travel like I do and explore new places and see new things and have new experiences. So going over Ben's birthday would be nice, but that's where time sometimes becomes a factor for me. And it's not so much not having the time, it's timing. Once in a while, I do have to worry about working around school with the kids. That comes into play a couple of ways. The older your kids get, the harder it is for them to miss school. They have, activities, or their classes are very challenging. My oldest son, Andrew, had a lot of advanced placement classes in high school. Megan was in theater. She had a lot of rehearsals and stuff like that all the time. If your kids are in sports and they have games and things like that, there can be a lot of things associated with school and your kids' activities that can make the timing of travel challenging. And then as my kids got older, and now, like when Andrew was in college and Megan was in high school, middle school, and Ben was in elementary, sometimes their breaks don't line up. This is still a challenge with Andrew because we haven't taken a family trip together, all four of us, since 2017, because that's the last time we all had the same spring break. And now he's in law school, and that makes it even trickier. So school schedules with kids can be a tricky factor as far as time for being able to take trips. And it also can be limiting in that the times that you might want to go because it's less expensive or less busy might not be a time that you can go because your kids have something with school or something that's preventing you from being able to go when you want to. So just an aside there. Okay, but in March, either Ben's birthday, but that would involve missing school, or spring break. And our spring break this year is late in March. In March, I would like to go to Hawaii. Okay, and I'm just going to leave that there for now, and I'm going to come back to it. The next time I would like to travel is for Megan's milestone 18th birthday. Megan turns 18 at the end of May this year. She's graduating from high school early. She's graduating this month, and that's why we're taking the trip this month. That's to celebrate Megan's graduation. I should also add, we like very much to use travel as the way that we celebrate big milestones. We aren't party people. We don't really like socializing and things like that. Planning parties and all that, that's just a pain to me. And so we much prefer to have travel experiences and enjoy family time together traveling as a way to celebrate things like birthdays, big milestones, things like that. Okay, for Megan's birthday, I would like to go to Alaska. Now, I would love to do an Inside Passage Alaskan cruise, and specifically, I'd like to do it on either Holland America or Princess, because those are the two cruise lines that I think are most recommended for Alaska because they've been there the longest and have the most connections in Alaska. Now, the reason those two are significant is I have been to all 48 contiguous states in the United States, most of them multiple times. The only states that I have not been to are Alaska and Hawaii. And I'm going to be 50 this year. And Megan came up with the coolest idea. She said, "Mom, wouldn't it be cool if you visited all 50 states by the time you were 50? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to do that. I really want to do this. I'm really hoping by some magical way I can somehow make this happen because I think that would be really cool. Now, the reason I picked these particular dates is Hawaii would be nice to go to in March because the weather's very cold and yucky here in March. And I wouldn't want to go when it's hot, like in summer or anything. And I'd much prefer to go to Alaska early in the Alaskan season, the Alaskan cruise season, rather than late because it's drier and there's less chance of rain. And I really don't like rain. I know that you have a better chance of seeing wildlife later in the year, but I'd actually like to go at the beginning of the season too because I want to see it with snow. I want it to be cold when we go to Alaska. I don't like being hot. I much prefer cold. And so I'd really like to go to Alaska as early in the season as possible. And if we could go over Megan's birthday, that would be great. And if I could somehow do those two things, then I would have checked off my 49th and 50th state before my 50th birthday. Okay, then for my 50th birthday, big milestone birthday, really want to take some type of Northern European cruise. Now, I should also add that I really, really wanted to do this with all three of my kids. However, that's not going to be possible because of my oldest son's obligations with law school. So I'd still like to do a big trip for my 50th birthday. That's really important to me. I get very depressed on my birthday, And I have a few times been traveling on my birthday. Our last cruise was over my birthday a few years ago before the pandemic, and that was really fun to be on a cruise for my birthday. I've been in Las Vegas on my birthday. Well, the last 2 years during the pandemic, we actually were traveling on my birthday. So that made my birthday better than being at home. But traveling during the pandemic can be kind of a pain. And I've made videos about that too. Last year we were in Massachusetts, and the year before that we were in Vail, Colorado on my birthday. So I'd much prefer to be traveling on my birthday. Although August is so hot, and like I said, I don't like being hot, that sometimes finding a destination for my birthday can be a trick, because I don't like being hot. And I don't want to be hot when I'm celebrating my birthday, and that's not always possible. There's very few places you can find on the earth in August to go where it's not hot. But I would like to go on some type of Northern European cruise, and I have a whole bunch of ideas. I'd love to do the Norwegian fjords. I'd love to do a Baltic cruise. I'd love to do a British Isles cruise. I'd love to do like Iceland and Greenland. Anything like that. I would just love any of those. That's what I would really like to be doing for my 50th birthday. And then the one other time in 2022 that I definitely would like to be traveling if possible is at the Christmas season. Not necessarily over Christmas itself. We do like being home for Christmas, but anytime in like late November and the first part of December up until Christmas. And for that, I would say I would like to be doing any of the things I talk about in this video, where I talked about 6 cool destinations to visit at the Christmas season. Any of those I would be happy with. All 4 of these are kind of big ticket trip and would be pretty expensive. And to be able to do all 4 of them in 1 year would be a lot of money, obviously. I really hope I can do any of them, honestly. I'd be really, really happy and excited about that. But I do also have some other options or some backup trip ideas for 2022 that I have been keeping in mind if for some reason I'm not able to do one or more of those other ones. And these are a little bit more flexible on when we would go. These are just a list of some other places that would be less expensive and a little bit more manageable during the pandemic, and also for cost. All right, number 1 is San Diego. I have only been to San Diego, California once in my life, and I didn't get to do or see anything except my hotel and the hospital. And that is a whole big major story. And I talk about it all in this video. Basically, my dad died twice. My dad is still alive and with us. You got to go and watch that video to find out what happened. It was very serious and bad. And that was my only experience in San Diego. So I really want to go back to San Diego. I was 18 when that happened. And get to do all the cool things that there are to do in San Diego. Okay, that's 1. San Francisco. Now, on that same trip that's in that video, we did go to San Francisco. I've been to San Francisco many times, but my kids, none of the 3 of my kids have ever been to San Francisco. And San Francisco is a really cool city, and there's a lot of cool things to do in San Francisco. So that is another one that is on my list of places to go. Okay, another one is Hershey, Pennsylvania. I have been to Hershey, Pennsylvania once when I was in middle school with my dad. I remember some things about it, but not a lot. I have considered a few times trying to combine that with other things in that mid-Atlantic region. We did take a big mid-Atlantic states trip this past summer, and I'll link that playlist up here. We went to Baltimore, we went to Colonial Williamsburg, we went to Busch Gardens Williamsburg, we went to the Outer Banks in North Carolina. We probably actually tried to do too much. And we went to Washington, D.C., but some of those same places, you could skew it north and get Hershey in there too, because they're actually pretty close. So Hershey's another place that I would like to go. I would particularly love to go see Hershey at Christmas time. Don't have that on my Christmas destinations list, but really any time to go to Hershey I think would be really fun. Another option is somehow combining something with visiting my son Andrew. My son Andrew now lives in New England. He's going to law school. He has been here in Wisconsin and Minnesota for 3 weeks over the Christmas and New Year's holidays, visiting us, visiting his dad and his dad's family, and visiting a whole bunch of his friends. He's been spending time here since December. He was here December 17th through January 8th. So he had a nice long break from law school that he was here. But the whole rest of the year, he will not be able to come back here at all. He'll be in New England the whole time. I mean, one of the things with law school is in the summer, most law students get some kind of job or clerkship or something like that. So he really won't be able to come back any other time, I don't think. I would really like it if at least once or twice a year, if we could go out there and visit him and combine that with doing some fun things ourselves too, because he probably won't have a ton of time to spend with us. We were just there in August, and I'll link that playlist up here. Not sure about like the timing of that, of when that would work, but one of the things that I have in mind that we could combine with going to visit Andrew would be going to New York City. It's not that far away from where he is. And there's a lot of other things we could do. The states are smaller out there. Everything's close together. So, and then one last thing I have, but this one I'm going to put a caveat on. And that is going back to Washington, D.C. Now, we went to Washington, D.C. last June. The main things that we got to do were the Spy Museum and a really fantastic evening D.C. monuments tour, which my kids really, really enjoyed. And that was something very important to me, that they got to see the D.C. monuments. However, because of the pandemic, Washington, D.C. has been a little bit weird during the pandemic, and there's a lot of trickiness to getting into a lot of the museums. The Spy Museum is a private museum, but we didn't get to go to any of the Smithsonian museums. I would really like to go back to Washington, D.C. and focus on seeing and spending time in a bunch of the Smithsonian museums, because that's something my kids did not get to experience, and I think that's something everybody should try to do at some point. That one, though, I don't know that I want to include on my 2022 list. That's just kind of out there, because I have a friend who just took her family to Washington, D.C. recently, and they still ran into trouble. And this was in December of 2021. Couldn't get tickets to a museum they wanted to go to because of the Omicron surge. Museum that they were planning on going to closed again the day they were going to go to it. They were really disappointed. That was the Natural History Museum. They couldn't get into the Museum of African American History and Culture, so they had some trouble. So DC has been real up and down about what's open. So I think for going back to Washington, DC, I would like to wait until the pandemic is truly and totally completely over. So that may be a year or two, 10. I don't know. It might be a while, but that's something that I'm also keeping on my list. So there you go. Those are 4 places that I would really like to go. 3 really that I'd really like to go for March, Megan's birthday, really our birthdays. Ben's birthday or spring break, Megan's birthday in May, my birthday in August. Big milestone birthdays for Megan and I, 18 and 50. Really would like to take these trips this year, or some type of trip. If we can't take those things I listed, Hawaii, Alaska, Northern European cruise, and I'm going to be making a video soon, stay tuned for that, about why our family has not cruised during the pandemic, because we definitely could have, but there's a reason we're choosing not to, so stay tuned for that video. But if I could do any of these things that I've listed, including those backup other options, I would be really happy if we could take 2, 3, 4 of these trips sometime in 2022. That would make me very happy. Tell me in the comments below, as a viewer of my videos, which of these things that I mentioned would you most like to see me document in vlogs on the channel? That might help me steer my decision. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video today. I hope you are all safe and well. Have a great day, everyone, and safe travels.